What's up, everybody? It's another week of Jenn Tran, the coolest girl, the coolest bachelorette ever to live, and this was a great episode. The theme was thrusting and gyrating men. There was a disclosure at the top of the episode, and we open in another day at the Marriott in Melbourne, and the boys are just they're. It cuts to them lounging topless, and then they're all pumping iron on the deck, and like one guy is like lifting himself up just on the ledge, and Marcus is like doing this crazy like push up, like I've never even seen this kind of push up. And the and then it leads into this group date that is led by the Thunder from Down Under Las Vegas team of male strippers, and it just revealed so much about so many of the men, namely my number one, Marcus, who killed it. He chose an astronaut theme, and he nailed it. He humped his astronaut helmet. He looked professional, and he looked silly and like he was having fun, which I thought he was kind of too serious of a dude for that, but he was hilarious. I was with it. And then on the other side of the coin, we have poor Sam and the Virgin, who just was so deeply uncomfortable because he truly, as I've said before, he says he's a love virgin, but I think it is truly because he's actually a virgin, and he laid an absolute egg. He was so uncomfortable stripping and making the sexual moves, and then instead of participating and doing anything at all, he just told Jen that he was falling for her, and then he continues to spiral in a shame spiral for the rest of the episode, the poor guy. And it was like the crowd went silent, and then he just goes, "That's it." And I think he was the last one to go. It was rough. And on top of that, when they were practicing the dolphin dive, which is one of the moves, he sprained his thumb. So on top of his shame spiral, he also had an ace bandage on his hand for the rest of the episode. So not a good day for poor Sam N. And the actual interesting thing about him dropping the L-bomb was that all of the men were so offended, and I, from my observation, I think they were offended because they thought that Jen has no discernment whatsoever and would just immediately fall for, just be like, oh my gosh, well, he says he loves me, so I guess I must love him. Like, they just thought, like, I think that's why they were so offended, because they thought that he was like pulling out the big guns, but really it came from this like deep well of insecurity because he's a virgin. And it was like, yeah, like they just thought she was just going to drop her panties, the first person who laid the L-bomb on her. And it's quite obvious that, like it goes back to that other episode where she's telling Thomas, she's like, well, you're kind of taking away my agency when all of you boys are deciding who can go first and who I'm allowed to talk to. It's like, no, I'm going to talk to who I want to talk to. And likewise, she also knows that Sam N she knows what he is. Anyway, moving on. Sam M, he talks such a big game. His performance to me was lackluster. And actually, Devin stole the show, and he later came out and said, he was a fat kid and that it was really kind of a hard day for him because he kind of had to face his fear around his body. But he decided to dress as basically a flasher, like a subway flasher, and like I think he called himself a detective, but he was a flasher, and he just had this big trench coat on, and then he whipped it off, and he was in a thong. It was so funny. I was screaming. I thought it was so funny. And then Jonathan wins. Jonathan, whatever. And they carried him away in a throne, which was very fun. The whole bit was so good. And I also want to know how funny it was watching these guys practicing their stripper moves. It was like somehow the most emasculating thing watching all of these men practice being sexually masculine. Just 10 out of 10. Loved it. But backtracking a little bit, before they did that Thunder from Down Under, she did go on a one-on-one date with Spencer, which was a huge surprise to me because I am not attracted to Spencer at all. They go on a helicopter. I think there's something about the way that he holds his mouth that it's like always kind of like a weird smile, and he looks like a dad in a 1990s J.C. Penney catalog or something, just so wholesome. And it's kind of like, when you're watching TV, when you watch TV from the 90s or TV from when you were a little kid and now you're in your 30s, and all the people who were in their 30s when you were a kid look so old, like George Costanza in the 90s. Like, that guy was 33 years old, and I feel like I look younger. I'm older than that, but anyway, like it's giving that. Like, it's just like he just like dresses like just like a weird wholesome dad, but in a time warp a little bit, or his demeanor is like that. I can't quite pin it, but anyway, so I was surprised that she wanted to go on a date with him because he just seems a little bit conservative, or like a little bit not, I don't know. I know he's a nice guy. I can he seems like a nice guy. Anyway, that's probably why Jen wants to go out with him, because she's like, I'm really attracted to Sam M, which probably means I shouldn't go out with him and I should try to give Spencer a chance. Because anyway, and then there was this part when they're on the helicopter and he's making out with her, and then his hand moves and it's like he's going to move to touch her boob, but then instead he just touches her elbow. And I feel like Spencer's whole essence is defined in that one move. It's just, anyway, back to the cocktail party after the stripper show, the big group date, because there's two group dates. One was a big one and one was 4 guys. And the beef is still mostly between Sam M and Devin. And Sam M, of course, has his sidekick Thomas. And my opinion of Sam M is that he's gross. I think he's bad news. And the way that he fights with Devin is such a turnoff to me. But more than that, his accent is really strange to me. And the more they fight, and Devin does this too, the more they fight, the more they kind of slip into this weird, it almost sounds like white boy street ghetto accent, like maybe from like the 90s, or like Justin Timberlake when he was starting to be famous. And and they also start to migrate into kind of preacher language. Like, I wrote them down. It's like, that's a that's a testament to my humility, bro. Or okay, brother, that's raps. Okay, brother, that's raps. Or I am blessed to have this rose. Or it's that's up to her to behold. Or don't speak, and this is Sam M. He said this about 10 times during the whole episode. He says, don't speak on me, don't speak on my name, don't speak on me, don't speak. And it's, and then, no, he doesn't say that. He says, I'm keeping the main thing. Gotta make sure you keep the main thing. And it's like, he doesn't keep it the main thing because he keeps fighting with Devin. And, the main thing, I mean, we all know the main thing is Jen's pussy, but he's not keeping Jen's pussy the main thing because he keeps getting in fights with Devin, and he keeps being mean to Sam. He is mean to Sam and that, it's like the self-judgment is just sloughing off of Sam N, and Thomas and Sam M are just snickering, and it just like they go full beta. Like, some people are like, it's maybe they're like 1 or 2 first times around. It's giving beta. And, Devin is loud. He is obnoxious. He does have to get the last word. But he's not name calling them. Like, they call him a clown. They call him a child. Sam M is like, I straight up do not respect you at all, brother. And it's just gross. And then Sam M keeps getting upset because Jen's not picking him because he's like making out with her the most, and it's kind of like he's kind of like one of those pick me girls on The Bachelor, who they're like, how come you're not picking me? I showed you my tits. And it's like, well, Sam, you kind of, because she knows that you're an asshole. Okay, moving on. The third thing that happens is that Aaron, salty Aaron, gets called up. He gets called up to the Air Force by his supervisor, which seems fake. And he's like, I got a big decision to make. And he goes on this race car date with, it's him, Hakeem, Jeremy, and Austin. And Jeremy takes the opportunity to have a moment to make out with Jenn on the racetrack. Aaron's the only one who can drive stick and somehow still manages to lose. Then she has some momentary time with Austin, who reveals to her that he too has been cheated on and that he too is a love virgin. So that's 2 love virgins. That's Sam N and Austin, and also Austin, Sam M, and Spencer have all been cheated on. So it's a messy group of boys, I think. Anyway, so they're all on the date. She gives Jeremy the rose, and I'll get to him because I think he does go far because of I watch Bachelor Fan Takes YouTube. Anyway, they have some alone time, but then Aaron doesn't get the rose, and then later he sits down with her and he's like, listen, I gotta go to the Air Force. I gotta do my passion, my calling. I've been wanting to do this for so long. And then she's like, okay, go. Like, I would do the same thing. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do. And then he's like, listen, just before I go, you gotta know that not all these guys here are for the right reasons. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, you have to figure that out for yourself. And she's like, fuck you. And she gets really pissed. She walks around and she makes this big speech to all the boys. And she's like, this is my life. This is not a joke to me. If you are fooling around, you have to tell me now. And the interesting thing is that Aaron, I'm pretty sure, is referring to Devin, but he's also buddies with Sam M. And it's like, oh, so he's trying to warn her about Devin, but really it's Sam that's the asshole. And it's just like, Aaron, again, is just outing himself as beta. And I just don't like him. He's just salty and not fun and kind of gross. Anyway, so after she makes her angry speech, she goes, Marcus, do you want to talk? And I love that. Marcus is my number one, and I want him to be the winner. And the fact that she pulled him first, I don't know. I just really want him to be him. It just seemed like she sees him as her rock. And then she has some time with Devin, and they share some vulnerabilities, and she cries in front of him. And Devin, he was like, listen, like, if you're ever feeling down, if the world's ever getting to you, you just get behind me. I'll take all those punches on the chin. So hot. I mean, and I kind of believe him, because I feel like, he's probably bullied and dealing with, being overweight as a kid. I feel like he probably does feel like he can weather many different kinds of storms, because he's probably had to overcome some mental insecurity, like we are seeing Sam N on the beginning of his journey of dealing with what's going on in there. But Devin's kind of, I think, a little bit more integrated. Anyway, that's a great sign. Then Sam M dry humps her some more, and she says, I just don't think you can fake that kind of passion, and I'm here to tell you that they can and they do. And just, I hope she figures it out. Anyway, the boys fight a little bit more, and then there's this really funny exchange where Jesse comes in and he's like, okay, fellas, night's over, we're gonna do roses. And then all the boys are because I think some of the guys didn't get more one-on-one time because of the drama. And then Sam and is like, listen, guys, it's okay, the night is young. And Spencer's like, Literally, the night is over. Jesse just came in here and said that. So funny. Anyway, and then like I also just like Spencer does get some redemption points in my book for saying that because that's hilarious. Okay, anyway, roses. So starting off the rose ceremony, Spencer has a rose, Jeremy has a rose, and Devin got a rose on that cocktail hour group date. Then Marcus gets one, John gets a rose, Jonathan gets a rose, Austin, Grant, Sam M, Thomas N, Dylan, and Sam N. Both of the Sams stay, which leaves Aaron, who already skedaddled, lovely Hakeem, sad, and Thomas A, who the only thing I remember about him is he had rock hard abs that like the women in the audience were like mouths on the floor for. Okay, so predictions. So Bachelor Fan Take, I watch his YouTube and he sleuthed out that Jeremy seems to get a Final Four hometown date because that clip of them riding through the grocery store is his hometown, which is crazy. Who would ever think that he would overcome that terrible big dick joke that he shot at her coming out of the limo? But here we are. So Jeremy's in Final Four, I think. Okay, and then fingers crossed, Marcus gets Final 3. And I'm pretty sure Devin is Final 3, which leaves... Okay, there's Sam M, which very well, he could be the 4th. But I hope she figures out that he's beta, and I don't know. I mean, I just think he wants to fuck her. Okay, there's also Jonathan and Grant, who we know she's attracted to them. We've seen in the previews them both getting one-on-ones, so it's kind of, I think, for that final 4th spot between Sam M, Jonathan, and Grant. Spencer, I think it's going to be a no. He's just too vanilla. He seems like, you know what he seems like? He seems like the kind of guy who won't pull your hair when you're having sex because he's too feminist, but then he'll try, but it'll take you out of the moment because the whole point of wanting that is because you want him to, like, it's like he's trying his damnedest to please you, but because, like, the reason you want your hair pulled is because you want him to want you so badly that he wants to possess you for his own pleasure, but he's trying so hard for your pleasure, and it's just like ships in the night. It's like, and I feel like that's the kind of guy that it's kind of like the same thing. It's like back to that emasculation. It's like emasculating seeing a guy practicing or trying hard to be sexually masculine and not just like being selfishly sexually masculine, if that makes sense. Anyway, this is what's so great about The Bachelor, because they get to go all around the world, down to the Southern Hemisphere, dating this cool chick, and I get to pretend that I'm Margaret Mead, and, you know, I wouldn't trade places. I wouldn't trade places. Anyway, that's it for me. I can't wait for the next episode. Have a good week. Bye, y'all.